So I'm a personal trainer, and as someone that's been into fitness the last 6 years, Diamond Gym is definitely a different take on gym culture. And why so is because it's a lot more of a hardcore take. I feel like back in the day when bodybuilding was first starting to become a lot more popular and a lot more mainstream around the time when Arnold Schwarzenegger and Ronnie Coleman were coming onto the scene, they showed a lot more of a hardcore side of bodybuilding. A side where they went balls to the wall with training. They were putting their all into it. And it was pretty much something that like a lot of people, you know, were into at the time, but it was definitely a lot more intimidating. And I feel like not a lot of the masses were relatively into that type of stuff. But then, like sometime around kind of like the 2000s, when bodybuilding forums were kind of starting to go onto the scene, you still relatively had kind of like that hardcore nature of bodybuilding, but it was a lot more niche. And it wasn't until Ziz and sort of kind of like the aesthetic movement came around that things were starting to become a bit more educational. There was a bit more of a kind of bro science to it. But then there was like the aesthetics to it that kind of made it a bit more accessible. And it wasn't until about like the mid 2010s when social media kind of changed a lot about fitness. And that's when we started getting a lot of the David Lades and the Jeff Sides and the Connor Murphys. They made fitness like so much more accessible, and I feel like aesthetics really played a big role in like how fitness has been playing, in our culture to now moving forward, because Instagram was a lot more visual, so a lot more of the appealing body was more acceptable in the fitness industry. So that's why a lot of people that had a lot more of that slim physique, sort of similar to Ziz, sort of similar to David Lade, sort of like the more broader look, with the hourglass figure, those physiques like were becoming a lot more popular. And I'd say that things have ramped up a lot since TikTok in the early 2020s, and it's just been a cesspool of just physiques and physiques and physiques that are kind of in all rages. I feel like at this point we're starting to deal with a lot of physique inflation at this point, of how many like big teenagers there are, like all these like rated up teenagers at like 16 or whatever. And I feel like fitness has kind of definitely become a lot more accessible for the masses at this point. I think fitness at this point is just mainstream. So many commercial gyms, so many like LA Fitnesses, Planet Fitnesses, YMCA's, all that kind of stuff. But I feel like a lot of the way we kind of lost what it meant when we had to do more like hardcore lifting. I feel like a bit of that hardcore nature that made bodybuilding a lot more masculine, a lot more of something that was in touch with masculinity and just overall kind of like this danger, you could say, to it, but it was like a lot more appealing. I feel like it was a lot more personal. Like I feel like we kind of lost that in recent years with bodybuilding, and I feel like it hasn't been until like in the last maybe like 3 years, Sam Sulek, I feel like kind of brought this sort of like intensity to bodybuilding again. And I don't think until probably like Diamond Gym that we've been getting a lot more of that kind of like hardcore, nature to fitness and bodybuilding and all in between. Trunk Twins as well, I have to include them because 3 years ago they were starting to make a name for themselves. They were starting to do a lot with their physiques, but also just their way of training and their videos, entertainment, etc. But why you should go to Diamond Gym, I feel like they're bringing back the side of like fitness that's a lot more masculine, a lot more intense. I feel like we're not used to that nowadays. Society has kind of made fitness a lot more too like science based. Like I feel like fitness is starting to become too science based. We're not sort of getting to the crookedness of just, you just gotta do an exercise and you just gotta do it. regardless of like whatever sort of like stuff you're gonna deal with. Oh, I'm too lazy. Oh, I don't want to hit the gym today. Oh, I'll take my time and all that. Sometimes you just have to go balls to the wall if you're training, and that's like really the only way you're gonna ever like progress. Now there are ways to sort of like kind of like incrementally do it, and obviously, you know, as a personal trainer myself, I try to accommodate that to my clients. Obviously, you want to accommodate for different goals of training. Not everybody's interested in trying to be like a bodybuilder, of course. But there comes a point where you just have to say, like, you know what, I'm gonna put in the work and put in the effort to make this happen. And you just gotta go balls to the wall. And I feel like Diamond Gym is sort of bringing that back where you just have to do it. Doesn't matter what excuses you have in your head, you gotta just put in the work and just do it. If you have to lift like 1,000 pounds and you're struggling with it, so be it. But at least try to lift that and not just do the same weight every week for the same amount of reps. You're not gonna grow. Your body has to go through some sort of challenge. I mean, heck, you have to overall go through some sort of challenge and like overcome it. You literally have to like go through the bottom of the barrel if you want to like come out on top. And I think that that's what makes Diamond Gym special, is that there's something that you have to push through. You have to just push through to the best of your ability. I feel like the more that younger generations sort of get that type of message, I think that's gonna help people to sort of take more risk and like put in the work towards something rather than just like doing something lackadaisically. I also think that, you know, and they kind of stated as well, but the mental fortitude, I feel like, is the big thing about Diamond Gym that makes it so much more better than like things out right now. Like, I feel like they're really proposing that a lot of things in life are a mental game, and that you have to really like push through things that are going to be like so hard. And if you easily give up on it, then you're not mentally strong enough. I think it's important to be able to really push through whatever you're going through and to be able to give it the effort that you can, to not let anything in your mental destroy you, not let anything deter you from your direction. If you have something that you're trying to really like do and there's obstacles in the way, if it hurts, you have to have the mental fortitude to like push through it. So it might get harder on a bench press when you're doing 225, right, by like the 5th rep. But if you have like those 5 more reps to go, and you're probably at that point like slowing like the bar down and all of that, you have to keep pushing through, because when it gets hard is when you know that you have to push through and you have to just like fight it, you know. And I think that mental fortitude is something that a lot of men in general, but overall people in general that are getting into fitness, need to understand. I think we need to understand that we need to have the mental fortitude to be able to push through whatever obstacles we might face in life. And I think that that's the great thing that Hadi and Unk do, is that they show something that's not easy, but they help you to push through it. Obviously, I don't think that everybody should be doing like 25,000 push-ups as a superset to like if you're doing like those forearm curls that they had done with Matt Rife, or I don't think it makes sense to be doing like 125 pound like dumbbell presses and like this half rep motion, and then you have to do like 25 to like 50 push-ups on top of that, and then you're not drinking the water the whole time, and then you're having to do burpees if like everybody's just like talking or whatever. I don't agree with that sentiment. I think there's better ways to go about it. And I'm sure that they're not really doing that type of training on the regular to begin with, because who would do that type of training regularly? I don't think it makes any sense. But regardless of the negatives, I do think that there are overall net positives that Diamond Gym does showcase. And I feel like it's time that it kind of gets highlighted more, because I don't really feel like a lot of people get to talk about that. So that's my take on Diamond Gym. I think that you should go to Diamond Gym. I think you'll probably be going to the hospital. You'll probably die, honestly. But at least you died trying. And that's why you should go to Diamond Gym. And I'm gonna say a couple more words so I can just get to 10 minutes. Make sure you like and subscribe. I also will post a personal training video soon. Thank you.